Some stories begin with love, some begin with power, and some begin with a single moment so unexpected that it destroys everything people thought they knew. This story began at a wedding, or at least it was supposed to. On a warm Saturday evening in Manhattan, hundreds of guests gathered inside one of the city's most luxurious venues to celebrate what looked like the perfect union. Emily Carter was just 28 years old, beautiful, intelligent, and only hours away from marrying Ryan Moretti, heir to one of the wealthiest and most influential families in New York. To everyone watching, it looked like a fairy tale. The designer dress, the diamond ring, the expensive champagne, the smiling guests. Everything about that night screamed perfection. But perfection can be deceptive, because just minutes before Emily was supposed to walk down the aisle, someone entered the room who was never expected to show up. The room changed the second he walked in. Conversations slowed. Smiles disappeared. Even the laughter stopped. It wasn't loud. No one screamed. No dramatic scene unfolded. It was something far more unsettling. Silence. The kind of silence that tells you everyone in the room understands something you don't. His name was Vincent Moretti, Ryan's uncle, 52 years old, ruthless, feared, a man whose reputation carried more weight than his words ever could. People spoke about Vincent carefully, if they spoke about him at all. In business circles, he was respected. In private, people feared him. He had power, influence, and the kind of control money alone could never buy. But what happened next was something no one in that room could explain. Emily looked at Vincent and froze. Completely froze. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Because what happened next would destroy a family, trigger betrayal, and expose secrets buried for years. Emily was supposed to marry Ryan. Instead, within 30 days, one man would end up dead, another would seize complete control of the Moretti empire, and Emily Carter would vanish without a trace. The question is, what really happened that night? Why did Emily react the way she did when Vincent walked in? Was this forbidden attraction? Manipulation? Or was something far more dangerous already in motion? To understand the truth, we need to go back to where it all began. 30 days after Vincent Moretti walked into that wedding venue, gunshots shattered the silence of a quiet Brooklyn street just after midnight. Witnesses reported hearing at least 6 shots fired in rapid succession. By the time police arrived, all they found was chaos. A black luxury sedan sat engulfed in flames near the curb, its windows shattered, smoke rising into the night sky. Sirens filled the streets as officers pushed crowds back, trying to make sense of a scene that looked more like an execution than an accident. Within hours, media outlets across New York were reporting that the Moretti family had become the center of a violent federal investigation involving organized crime, money laundering, racketeering, and murder. But what captured everyone's attention wasn't just the violence. It was the woman at the center of it all, Emily Carter, the bride who never made it to the altar. Just weeks earlier, Emily looked like a woman living a dream most people only imagine. She had beauty, intelligence, ambition, and what appeared to be the perfect future. Ryan Moretti offered her wealth, status, and entry into one of the most powerful families in New York. But the moment Vincent Moretti entered her world, everything changed. What started as quiet tension quickly turned into obsession, betrayal, and a dangerous game where every move carried consequences. But here's what nobody knew at the time. Emily Carter was hiding secrets of her own. She wasn't just Ryan's fiancée, and she wasn't simply caught between 2 powerful men. Emily had entered the Moretti family with a mission, and from the very beginning, she was playing a game far more dangerous than anyone realized. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Because this story raises questions that become more disturbing the deeper you look. Was Emily truly in love with Ryan? Why did Vincent take such a sudden interest in her? Was their connection real, or was every interaction carefully calculated? And perhaps the biggest question of all, who was really manipulating who? Because by the time this story ends, one man will be dead, an empire will change hands, and the woman at the center of everything will disappear without a trace. To understand how this all unfolded, we need to go back to the beginning, before the wedding, before the betrayal, and before Emily Carter ever met the Moretti family. Before Emily Carter became the woman at the center of one of New York's most shocking crime investigations, she was simply known as intelligent, ambitious, and impossible to read. Friends described her as disciplined and highly focused, the kind of woman who rarely made emotional decisions without thinking 3 steps ahead. She grew up in New Jersey in a middle-class household where nothing came easy. Her parents worked hard, sacrificed often, and taught her one lesson above everything else: never depend on anyone for survival. Emily carried that mindset into adulthood. She graduated near the top of her class, built a promising career in finance, and developed a reputation for being sharp under pressure. Calm, controlled, difficult to impress. Which is exactly why people later struggled to understand how she became involved with the Moretti family. Because from the outside, Emily Carter didn't look like someone who would willingly step into a world filled with power, danger, and violence. But appearances can be deceptive, and Emily understood that better than most. Ryan Moretti entered Emily's life like a whirlwind. Charming, confident, and effortlessly wealthy, Ryan had the kind of charisma that drew people in almost instantly. He knew how to make people feel important. He knew what to say, how to say it, and most importantly, how to make life feel exciting. With Ryan came private dinners, luxury apartments, expensive gifts, and access to a world most people only see through screens. It felt intoxicating, almost too perfect. And that was the first red flag, because perfection rarely comes without a price. At first, Emily believed Ryan was exactly what he appeared to be: a successful young businessman with deep family wealth and an even deeper desire to build something of his own. But over time, cracks began to appear. Small things at first: sudden mood shifts, unexplained disappearances, conversations that ended the moment she entered a room. Ryan could be warm and affectionate one moment, then cold and distant the next. And whenever Emily asked questions about his family business, Ryan's answers became vague, controlled, guarded. That alone raised concern. But what happened next changed everything. The deeper Emily looked into Ryan Moretti, the more inconsistencies she found. Financial records that didn't make sense. Transactions routed through shell companies. Connections to businesses with histories tied to federal investigations. It wasn't enough to prove anything, but it was enough to raise serious questions. Questions Emily quietly began investigating on her own. At least, that's what Ryan believed. Because the truth was far more complicated. Emily Carter had been hiding something from the very beginning. Months before meeting Ryan, she had already been placed on a confidential federal watch list tied to an ongoing organized crime investigation involving the Moretti family. Federal investigators had spent years trying to build a case against the Morettis. But no matter how close they got, someone always covered their tracks. Evidence vanished. Witnesses changed their stories. Leads went cold. The Moretti family had become nearly untouchable. Until Emily appeared. And for the first time in years, investigators saw an opening. They believed Emily could get closer than anyone else ever had. But even they didn't understand what would happen once Vincent Moretti entered the picture. Vincent Moretti was not like Ryan. Ryan had charm. Vincent had presence. Ryan wanted attention. Vincent commanded silence. At 52, Vincent had built a reputation that extended far beyond New York. People feared him not because he was loud or aggressive, but because he rarely showed emotion. He spoke calmly, moved carefully, and always seemed 10 steps ahead. That was what made him dangerous. Nobody truly knew how much power Vincent controlled, but everyone understood one thing. Nothing important happened inside the Moretti empire without Vincent knowing about it. Even Ryan, despite all his confidence, operated in Vincent's shadow. That should have made Emily careful. It should have made her keep her distance. Instead, it made her curious. Because from the moment Vincent Moretti first saw Emily Carter, something shifted. He noticed her immediately. And what unsettled Emily most wasn't that Vincent noticed her. It was the feeling that somehow, he already knew exactly who she was.